the violin at the age of 7. I used to scroll on the computer a lot because we had recently acquired a new laptop. And I remember scrolling games on this application called Encarta, which had games on historical monuments to games on musical instruments. At the violin, I was instantaneously hooked. I begged and pleaded with my parents. For context, in a Bengali family in Calcutta, you generally learn Rabindrasangit or Bharatnatyam. And convincing my parents that I had to learn the violin was a bit of a tough task. But after months of begging and pleading, I was victorious. At age 7, I began my journey with the violin. I started learning Indian classical music, and that very year, I performed on stage. Growing up, I was a bit of a lonely kid. I was not good at making friends. But I had two very great friends. One was books, the other was music. I played violin compulsively. And for those who know me, it might be a bit hard to believe that I had a lot of anger issues as a kid. And my trick was, the minute I'd get angry, I started playing the violin. And fun fact, we had a huge bookshelf at home. And I grew up literally among books. Harry Potter, Narnia, Diary of a Wimpy Kid, you name it. I had read all of them. And as an 11-year-old, a letter from Hogwarts School of Witchcraft and Wizardry, while fantastical, was a thing that anyone, I think, all of us expected to get. And my orchestra was a huge source of my well-being. I think that nowadays I curse my teacher a lot because back then in the day, from 9th grade, we would have to practice 5 hours a day, 4 days a week when our concerts neared. But then as I grew up, as I became a teenager, I found that friends became a sort of a social necessity. You needed friends. You needed to put stories on Instagram to be cool. So I made a few friends. And in 11th and 12th grade, I used to have so much fun with them. I would roam the streets of Calcutta, and I would stay out for so long that my parents were tired of me. All our parents were tired of us, and they would say, just come back home by the night. That was it. And I remember having fuchka and rolls and all of that, and staying out so late. And then I was made the head girl of my school. For context, being the head girl of our school was a huge thing because everyone in our school studied. No one did anything else. And after becoming the head girl of the school, it was perfect for me. It was a 17-year-old's dream. But then after that, things started to change a little. I found that the confident kid I had been changed. I got really scared. I was scared to speak. I was scared to eat. I was scared to walk. I was scared to do anything and everything. I would be so scared that you could not pull me out of bed and take me out somewhere. And I needed someone to talk to me continuously. So my parents obviously realized that this was a bit of a problem. This was a bit of an issue, and they took me to a psychiatrist. 2 months before the board exams, the final exams, so to speak, of school life, I was diagnosed with anxiety disorder. Everyone in my family told me that I would not be able to give the board exams. That is, except my mother. My mother was the constant voice in my head, and she was the constant reassurance in my heart that I would be able to do it. To do it, I used to run in a field near our house, and I used to tell myself every day that I have to give the board exam. And that was the constant refrain in my head. After the board exams ended, it would be expected that things would return to normal. But that is when things started worsening. I became more unnatural, according to all the people around me. I needed to be the center of attention. And I had always been a very silent kid. I did not like talking too much. I did not like mixing too much. I only liked my books and my music. And I started talking too much. I would call people at random hours of the night. I would keep texting people. I would talk too fast. And in the beginning, everyone thought it was a performing act. Everyone thought that all I needed was to be the center of attention because as a kid, I had not got much attention, which was, I think, in all their eyes, quite normal because suddenly when you see someone you know so well transforming into something different, you don't always think that something is wrong, right? And my parents in the beginning scolded me quite a lot. But then my best friend and my grandmother alerted them because one day I was going to my music school, and while coming back, it was 8 o'clock, and I told my parents that I'm coming back, but I came back at 11 o'clock. I got lost in the streets. I could not come back home. And that was the moment when I realized that I had been hearing voices in my head. I had been feeling that someone was continuously following me. And those things worsened. I felt like I was in a huge dark pit and nobody could rescue me. But then my parents realized that something was wrong, something was seriously wrong. And I was taken to a psychiatrist and I was diagnosed with bipolar disorder. And when you have a fever, people take you to the doctor, right? People take you to the doctor, they get you medicines, they support you, they tell you to rest. But when you have a mental disorder, people don't understand in the beginning what is going wrong. People don't fathom the extent to which it can go wrong. And after a while, it was all right. The medications helped, the counseling helped, and after a month, I was much more normal. And I thought the world would be much more normal as well. Coming back, I thought that my friends would start to hang out with me again, that they would start talking to me again, that everyone would start behaving like they had always behaved with me. But society was different. I was labeled as mad by my friends, by people in social circles. I became a social outcast. I was treated as someone unnatural and someone who was doing things wrong because, see, all the people who I had been with, none of them had forgotten what had happened. It was only me who had forgotten what had happened. And that hurt me. That hurt me quite a lot. But I think that my family helped me a lot. My family was always there throughout, and they supported me. And I think the best feeling was that my family made me feel 4 simple words, that it's not your fault. I did not do bipolar disorder. It happened to me. It was a medical condition. And my family's unwavering support meant that I always had the reassurance that someone was there with me. I did not need someone to do anything for me, but they were just with me. My music was also a constant source of support. I played the violin excessively, compulsively. I would record videos. I would learn pieces on the keyboard. I would play film music. I would play jazz. And that was a continuous source of resilience for me. The violin really uplifted me throughout. And it meant that I did not lose hope. I never lost hope. That was the most important thing. I never thought that it won't get better because everyone around me, my parents, my family, everyone around me told me that it will get better. It will get better. And today when I stand in front of all of you, after coming to university, things did get a lot better. I found a lot of accepting friends. I found a roommate who was a silent source of support. I remember this story. I was crying in my room one day, first semester, 1 week gone, a place in the middle of nowhere, from a city kid. And I was crying and I was distraught. And she came to me and she was like, "It's all right, it's fine. Laundry chale?" And that was the best thing that she could have done. And I found a lot of officials, a lot of professors who really supported me, who really listened to me, who really made accommodations for me. But no one made me feel out here that I was different, that I was unnatural, that I had done something wrong. And that is the most important thing, I feel, that someone tells you that it's not your fault. That's the most important thing. So today, I will be presenting a piece called Raag Behag. It was a piece that we used to end our concerts with. It was our famous finishing act. It's a Western fusion of an Indian raga, which my sir wrote. And there's this particular story. So my sir had a house which had a tin roof. And when we were playing in the orchestra, it would rain quite a lot in the monsoons. And what we used to do was that we used to try to play louder and louder to muffle the sounds of the rain. And that was how we had fun. And that was one of the best memories of my orchestra. So today I present to you Raag Behag.